Welcome back to another Metal Mondays. We just played Calling in the Corner from Violence, an 8-bit terror from Black Anvil. As you know, we always start Monday off with Violence. We have a really cool guest with us. We have Snake from Voivod. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, let's get into this. You guys are closing in on 40 years together as a band and are about to release Ultraman EP on November 4th. What
Yeah.
made you guys cover this TV series?
Oh well, I guess it's a childhood memories basically. We used to back in the days we did Batman and Captain Scarlet and all these childhood memories series that we enjoyed as a kid. And I remember I was really young when Ultraman was on, and it's one of the series that kind of disturbed me. And because you figure out, okay, they're in their costume. You figure out that even if you're really young, like 6 years old or so, you figure it's fake, but it puts you an image of destruction and everything that, the monsters from the seas and from the sky and the sort of an alien vibe to it. And it really fits, I don't know, I mean, what Voivod is all about,
Oh, yeah.
basically. And so it was exciting. It was really fun to do, and I'm glad we succeed. It was not obvious with dealing with like um, rights and everything. But we figured it out, and it turned out really good.
And was this something you guys always wanted to cover, or was this just like something like, hey, we loved this as a kid, let's cover it now?
Well, it's been, I guess it was in the back of our head somehow, like after a few trips to actually in Japan, like obviously Ultraman is a figure and there's a character that it's almost every corner you have mask of Ultraman and stuff like that, and it's really part of their almost like their culture, and it's and but for me as a kid, it was really like, okay, maybe there is monsters in the sea, and maybe there is something in the sky, and maybe there is, and it kind of opened the doors as a kid. But it's musically, it's really it's more complex than it sounds like. It could be like a rock and roll kind of thing, but there's a lot of instrumentation and a lot of parts behind it that creates the vibe of it, and it's quite cool.
Oh, yeah. That's very interesting when you say that, like, it's more complex than you think, because Voivod's a very different sounding band compared to this. So, with you covering this TV series, what was the process giving that Voivod sound to it?
I think there was a few arrangements that we did in the studio musically, and the fact that we, the team song. There's different part, and then there's the team song that is kind of like rock and roll thing, and so we kind of let the sound talks for itself, and music is cool, so it sounds right. It sounds right no matter what. It's gonna sound right if it's done properly, and so, but it was fun to do as a vocalist because we there's a part in French, there's a part in English, there's a part in Japanese, and it was really fun to do with
And
different harmonies. And Chewy is really good in Japanese,
yes.
and so we figured out how to sing it and the pronunciation and everything, and it was really cool.
And for like, because I did read that Chewie did the Japanese parts. What made you guys have him do it over you?
Well, I sang on it, but I don't sing everything.
Hmm.
I sang a little part, which is, I think, the chorus. Um, but it demands a lot. You have to be accurate to talk Japanese properly, I think. And, but I think I let him do it because he was the best to do it. It's just
Well, that makes sense. So I also read you guys recorded Ultraman theme during the recording process for Synchro Anarchy. What made you guys make this an EP compared to like just adding it as bonus tracks on your earlier record you released this year?
Well, good question. But I think when we recorded Ultraman, we right after that would jump into Synchro Anarchy, and we kind of like put it aside for a while, and then we were concentrate for 4 months. Like it was such a crazy session. Synchro Anarchy uh, delivered the albums in 4 months. It was like a it was not healthy to do that. It was just too much, brainstorming and everything and putting together that album in such a quick time. But we were excited because we've been during the pandemic we couldn't see each other, so it was kind of like a reunion intense studio session. And so but after that, when the tornado of Synchro Anarchy passed, we could go back to Ultraman and finish it with vocals and effect and
Nice.
whatever.
Well, so with you saying you guys like it was kind of a reunion, so you guys didn't record Synchro Anarchy or Ultraman like separately. You guys recorded it all in the studio together.
We had some ideas that we shared during the pandemic. Michelle Away did a lot of pre-programming drums. So while we couldn't see each other, he was working on it. We had a few riff here and there, a few melodies, but basically everything had to be done, from the start. And so when there was a release of Restriction, we were able to get together. And but just prior to that, we were doing the uh, streaming session that we did, Hypercube session and others, and it went really good, and it sounded good, just the four of us in a room, so it was a good experience to do the streaming. But we figured out that wow, we sound really good. No artificial layers of guitars, no, not too much of melody, not too much of extra vocal, extra this, extra that. So it we figured out that we sounded really good, the four of us, just boom. And so it gave us the idea to approach the sound of the album the same way,
Mhm.
more direct, more not too much of intro, outro, that stuff that we used to put a lot in on the Wake album. So it was more like a direct approach. But and anyway, the way we did it, it was like an emergency kind of thing, and it can feel it in the music, some sort of an emergency, or a desire to go out or go out and say something, after being like in our whatever cell for 2.5 years or so.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, let's get in some tunes. We're actually gonna play something off of your guys' new EP coming up, Ultraman. So let's get into that. We're gonna play some Ultraman from Voivod here on Razor Radio. All right, we're coming back from Sleeves Off from Voivod from their earlier record they dropped this year, Synchro Anarchy. So you were talking about the sessions you guys did and like how it was kind of like a 4 month cram. Was like a lot of this written during the pandemic, or was it some of it written before it, or is it all just written in the 4 month span you were talking about?
Like I said, we had bits of stuff. We had the pre-programming drum, but it was not complete. It was just ideas and stuff. So the song was not built at the time, and basically we sat in the same room and just we started with different beat and different riff and different this and that, and then we went like this. There's some stuff that was leading some kind of nowhere. We're like stuck for a while. Like, okay, what should we do? And then we're passing to something else, and it was like really intense. Um, but we figured out a certain pattern for songs, and then we start from that, and then pretty much, we did it really quickly as to build up some songs and something to work on, and so when we were to the stage of having a few riffs together and a few things together, we're like playing it and replaying, and I was like improvising melodies, but we were keeping it, we were recording everything, so it was useful because sometimes you have an idea that switch like that, and you're not going to repeat it afterwards, so it's kind of lost. And but that way we were able to keep everything. So we went back. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that could be like, and then okay, we'll try that, and then just like that, like building something. That's what's amazing about music, because at first it doesn't exist. It's not there. Music is nothing, and then it comes to something when we put the energy and the vibe to it, and basically build something that wasn't there yesterday and now it is. So it's cool.
It is. It's very cool. That was a great record that you guys put out earlier this year. With it being 9 tracks, did any song you guys wrote during that time not make it on the record?
No, I don't know. No, I don't. I think we used everything. I think pretty
Nice.
much was squeeze. It's like making juice, coming out of something, and it's like, ugh. But yeah, pretty much everything was consumed.
Yeah, that's great
And
though.
but I remember there was some structure that was so complex. Sometimes there was like, oh man, it's there's something wrong about that part or something, and we couldn't figure it out. And sometimes me and Chewy were like, like, how are we gonna do this? And this is really, some parts are really complex, and but until the very end, we were adjusting and
Yeah.
doing this till the very last 15 minutes. We were still doing stuff. Yeah, but it was such a great experience.
I bet.
Synchronically, one of the most intense session that I ever had. But when you commit to something and then you have to do it,
Yeah.
it gives you another kind of strength. It gives you another kind of, you have a deadline, so there's
Mhm.
automatically your brain function as that deadline, and then it never stops. You try to get some sleep and you can't sleep. You always have these in your head, and that's the only way to go. But I'm sure I'm going to remember that synchro anarchy session for quite a while. It was completely insane.
It sounds the way you're explaining it sounds completely like insane and very intense, like you're saying. With you guys having like such an intense, insane like session, what was your guys' process putting it like order track wise?
Well, we had to take a break from it. We were exhausted mentally, and seriously, we gave everything that we had. Chewy took some time to recover. It was. I'm serious when I say that. It was something that keeping you like mentally focused on something, and it's really hard to kind of let it go. But at one point, you have to let it go, and but then we never had the time to kind of sit and think about it. It was execute, 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 execute.
Mhm.
So we didn't have the time to take our distance to it. We finished it, we delivered it, and that was it. And then, but after we were exhausted, I didn't listen to it for a while I was like completely, I didn't want to even think about it. I was no, I'm done. It's done. But I remember Chewy was quite. It took him a little time to come back from that session, and it was weird. It was
It
something
sounds
weird.
very weird. um, with the like, okay, so another question for you off of that. Do you have a favorite song that you guys did right off of that record?
Well, I have a few actually. Holographic thinking
Mhm.
is great. Um, Synchronarchy is special for me. It's the way the way the structure and the way the beat goes. It's kind of like almost like stroboscopic, and so it's a bit different than the others. Um, Mind Clock is deep. Well,
Oh
let's
yeah.
say it's something more. Uh, yeah, but I love all the records. I think Sleeve Off is one of the good songs there. Uh, Planet Eaters,
Yeah.
uh, there's a lot of good stuff in that record, and seriously, it's something that you have to listen to it a few times,
Mhm.
like to absorb everything. But there's some catchy thing that stick in your head the whole day, so that's a good sign.
I agree. It's definitely a great record. I enjoyed it. That's probably one of my favorite records you guys well, that has been put out this year actually. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank
Um
you.
well, let's get in some more tunes. We're gonna play from Hollow Words from Ingested here on Razor Radio. All right, we're coming back for Forever Bloom from Chelsea Gren. Well, let's get back into this. You guys recently released a music video for Quest for Nothing. Who did the artwork and what was the process designing that video?
Uh, it's a friend of ours that takes care of the media and the merch section of the band, and he's an artist, and he kind of tries something out of the blue
Mhm.
with this new technology, uh, artificial intelligence, uh, and then he worked with it, and it's amazing how the thing works. It's just like you enter stuff in it, and then you let the computer does the job. The computer, it's almost like imagination from a computer. It's crazy. It, it takes the first time I saw it, my eyes was like my brain felt like a mashed potato. I seriously, my eyes were hurting, and then it's almost like a psychic. It's psychic because it goes everywhere. It flows everywhere. Everything moves. Everything. There's no rest for the eyes, and it's amazing. And he did a really good job. And yeah, it's something that you must check it out.
Well, it's insane. I watched it. I thought it was cool as crap. Like I thought it was amazing. Like the way they did the artwork. It's like, whoa. That's how I felt the whole time. I was mind blown. It was pretty interesting. I felt I had to throw that in here.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Okay, so you write all the lyrics. You've been doing this for nearly 40 years with this band. Do you still have the same writing approach as you did in the 80s?
Oh, probably I would say yes. It's a process that you learn, and I'm still learning. Actually, there's no not really much like a. It's not rocket science, but you have to make your own thing grow and move forward, and so you actually you get more experience, basically with now it's been 40 years of doing this, so uh So you get more experience. You know, you have the instinct of what it works. You know, so you don't search too much in zones that it's not your thing, or basically you know yourself better and you know how to sound good and what to do to make Voivod sound Voivod. And
Yeah.
it's really the instinct of 40 years being in a band, and you know what fits, you know what doesn't. It's just something weird, but that's reality.
Makes sense. And with you guys basically putting music out for 40 years, what's your process picking what makes it into the set list?
Oh, uh well, there's always, after so many years, so many record, we have so many songs, and
Mhm.
it's really sometimes complex to pick up. You have to promote the new album, but you have to play oldies as well, and you have to keep stuff alive, and so sometimes we put aside a record, or you don't play too much of a record, and you figure it out. Well, at one point, we must, do something and play something from that record or that period of it. And it's a really, you want to promote the new stuff. Obviously, there's
Mhm.
part of the show that is dedicated to that. And of course, the classic and some weird oldies as well. We pick up some different stuff here and there. And we try to make it interesting for the whole show, and that's the way it goes. I know sometimes people, you should play that song, you should play that. Yeah. One day, eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. And with you guys doing a bunch of European shows in like a week or so, are you guys going to add some of the Ultraman songs to the set list?
No, not this time around, but maybe eventually.
Yeah.
We're gonna open for Up It, and then we have a few gigs after in Europe as well, in Italy, Greece, and Turkey, and then. But I don't think this time, because it's kind of short, and we're leaving next Tuesday, so.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's exciting to be with these guys, and you know, I. I think there's going to be good attendances to the shows. The sell doing good, and it's always exciting to travel, to meet with people, to do shows, and to travel the world. That's part of the. It's our salary,
Oh,
actually.
yeah. I felt I needed to ask because like I said, I've mentioned this a bunch of times now. You've been doing this for 40 years. With playing like some of the same songs, do they still hit you the same the first time you performed them as they do now?
Well, there is old song that it's stuff like Tribal Conviction, and then it's we've been playing it so much, but it's one of the hit song of the band. So if we don't play it, people's gonna complain, and and but there's always sometimes you feel like, oh yeah, right, but as the beat starts, as it goes, you have no choice to give it the best you can, and then you enjoy yourself. I enjoy playing songs that we've been doing it the same as Voivod, the team song, and stuff like that. But uh, sometimes you have a different approach to it, but it's always part of the show, and you give you 100%, and even if it's a songs that, okay, well, yeah. Again.
And then another question I wanted to ask that a lot of people wanted to know: with you be like putting out music for this long with Voivod, do you have a favorite record in your guys' catalog?
um, yeah, good question. Uh, I think it's really hard to answer that, because every record has their own story and their own specific time and events and circumstances, and that's why they sound like that, and that's why it was back in the days, it was like that, and then It's really hard to say, okay, I this is my best, you know. For me, they all have something different. For me, they're all special in their own way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say, you know, if you be a sculptor, or you sculpt and you do pieces and pieces and pieces, and then which one's the best? It's they're all different. They're all different, and so it's the same with record. I think, you know.
That makes sense. Well, we're gonna get into one more break, and we're gonna play Guillotine from Destroyer 666 here on Razor Radio. All right, we're coming back from Sweet Evil Sun from Candlemass. All right, let's get back into this. Do you have any vocal warm ups you do before recording or playing live?
You mean warm up or?
Yeah, like, do you practice anything? Do you like?
No, I'm not. I'm no. I mean, it's never been some. It's never been part of my. I'm more mental. I'm like I don't want to talk to anybody, or uh, I feel like in my own world. You know, I'm trying to remember my lyrics. I try it, but I never do like vocal exercise. I don't know. Some people do
Mhm.
if it's good for them, but. For me, when the show starts, I give everything I have, and then I'm done.
That's how it goes sometimes, and you've always put on a killer show, so that's what all that matters, right?
Yeah, yeah. It also, for me, it's a brain thing. You know, mentally focused to do it. That's the most important thing.
Makes sense. And do you have any tour rituals?
No, we're pretty boring. Well, we used to have a. I remember with Jason Newsted, when Jason Newsted was in the band, he was all for that kind of stuff, and we were to do this, you know, with the we used to do that to each other, like the four
Yeah.
of us facing, and that was the thing. It was like okay, and then it was screaming Voivod, whatever, and but no, I don't think we do. I mean, we wish everyone, all right, guys, good show, you know, and then everything is in. Everybody has their own focus, and it's kind of like private moments for everyone, you know, like okay, stay focused, you know, and we have to do this, blah blah blah. You know what you have to do, and you just concentrate on doing it. And
That makes sense. And you guys will be touring Europe next week. What's your favorite place to play over there, or enjoy playing the most over there?
ah, you get tough questions. uh, well, you know. I think everywhere, same deal, the same with the records. You know, it's like everything is special. You know,
Yeah.
we're gonna start in Denmark. We're gonna do Spain. We're gonna do Germany, and you know, and after the Hoppet shows, we're gonna end up in Greece and Italy and Turkey, Istanbul. So everything everywhere has something special and something to discover, and something, you know, the people of the place are amazing, and you just everything is um, but of course, you know, even if I played Berlin so many times, Berlin
Yeah.
is Berlin, you know, and
Yeah.
same for Paris, and then same for, you know, you end up in cool places and notorious for their past and their history, and it's the world out there is fantastic, and that's really fun.
Makes sense, and that's a great answer for that. With being in a band from the 80s, how do you guys stay relevant in the industry nowadays compared to then?
Well, the industries has changed a lot, that's for sure. You know, I won't be the only one to say that, you know, streaming is something that we still have to compose with, you know, the streaming situation as for artists, and um, but we try to do, you know, you I mean, you cannot stop the wind with your hand like that, you know. And if it goes, it goes, and then you have to follow the path and get the best out of it. And there's different strategy that bands is used, you know, and uh, if it fits you, I mean, it all depends of being aware that the record company does what they, you know, good stuff for you. You try to work with the record company to give the best product for the for your type of fan. That's the thing that the label has to understand. It's like, okay, they have to understand Voivod, you know, and they have to understand what it is for a fan, you know, and the vinyl thing, and
Mhm.
that's another aspect that vinyl came back after so many years. So it moves, you know. It's sometimes a fashion thing, but sometimes old things, old good things comes back and say, "Hey, man, I love the streaming. It's really efficient and everything, but a record is a record, and then
Mhm.
there's it's another way to listen to music, and it's completely different, and it's a different experience, and uh, so it evolves, and you have to follow what comes what comes and goes, and basically make the best out of the situation.
Makes sense, and that's all pretty true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so my last question is: you guys are releasing Ultraman EP and touring through Europe through November to December. What should we expect from Voivod in 2023?
Well, 2023 is going to be a big year because it's going to be 40 years in January, and so there's a lot of planning for different stuff that I cannot talk about now. Yeah, it's going to be a busy year. There's a lot on the planning, touring, uh, and special occasion, whatever stuff, surprise. I cannot say. It's
Mhm.
just, it's up. It's still in the air. It's still not confirmed, and but there's a lot of things going on. So it's going to be something significant. I think 40 years. Not a whole lot of band have made it that far,
Agreed.
and so I'm glad we did, and we're still doing it. So it's cool.
Hell yeah. Well, I'd like to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we're going to end the show with Best Friends from Butcher Babies. See you guys next Monday here on Razor Radio.